Hey beautiful people, welcome back to Finding with Jessie, the life coach. How is everybody doing today? I hope that everybody is staying grounded and keeping calm or trying their best to do so. You know, it's been a month since this pandemic has really hit us, right? The beginning of March, like second week of March is when things started shutting down and things started getting really real, right? And in the beginning of this pandemic, we saw a lot of people who was just in a panic, right? Toilet paper scenario thing going on, right? That's just been crazy. And it's still happening. We're still seeing it. A lot of people are still trapped in that fear. A lot of people are still trapped in that energy. And today I'm hoping to possibly bring a new perspective and some insight to people who are struggling and stuck in that fear-based mentality, right? There's a couple of things that you can do to try to ease that fear and work through it. And today I'm going to be sharing some tips. So let's get into it. So tip number one, when you're dealing with anything that is fearful based, is that you want to remove the trigger. So whatever is triggering you at this time, you want to be able to remove it or at least censor it in some type of way. And so what I mean by that? Well, a lot of people are engrossed in fear because they are attached to the TV, right? The news, the newspaper, social media. They're surrounded by others who are in a fear-based mentality. And because of that, they are amplifying the fear-based response. So of course, it's understandable in times like this, we want to make sure that we are staying aware. Yes, you want to be aware, you want to be prepared, you want to be, ahead of the game, and so to speak. That's why a lot of people are watching the news, right? We watch the news for knowledge. We watch the news for guidance. We watch the news to find out, what's to come. But there's a difference between being aware and becoming obsessed with these platforms. So if you're noticing that every time you feel anxiety or you feel uncomfortable or you start feeling fear or you can't sleep, things like that, after you're watching the news or reading articles and engaging in conversations about what's going on, you want to try to limit that. You definitely want to start limiting the stimulus that's creating a fear response in you, right? So guys, if that is you, definitely start detaching from that, detaching from the news. That is going to be your best way to start eliminating some of those fear-based mentalities and fear-based energies that you're having at this time. Definitely, if you're one of those people who take on the energies of the news and what's going on around us and you're deeply impacted by it, or you're very sensitive to it, or you're deeply empathetic and things of that sort, or it just troubles you and it puts you in a state of fear or panic or anxiety, you definitely want to start detaching from whatever is stimulating that response in you. So that's the first thing you want to do, right? The second thing you want to do when you're dealing with any type of fear is you want to start rewriting your story by challenging it. And the way you do that is by writing down your fear. I spoke about this tip in other videos I spoke about in the past, and nothing has changed. It's one of the best ways to be able to conquer your fear and actually see what you're afraid of. So sometimes what you're afraid of is something that you have created in your mind that there's a possibility that it might not happen. And I'm going to give you some examples of that. So a lot of people, during this time, I'm going to mention some of the things they are afraid of. So the main thing I think people are fearful of is actually contracting the virus. They're afraid of getting sick. They're afraid of getting ill. But it's not really that they're afraid of getting ill, but they're afraid of what the virus can do to them, like death, right? So we all know that there's been a lot of people who've contracted, COVID-19, and they were able to survive it. They were able to fight it. They were able to come out on the other side. So right there's evidence to show that if you were to contract COVID-19, there is a possibility that you'll be able to overcome it, right? So that's what I mean by situations that we're thinking about. We tend to think of situations and its worst possible outcome when we are in that fear-based mentality, right? Because there, if you were to contract it, you can do a 360. There's a possibility that it might go up. There's a possibility that it might go down, meaning that you might heal from it and a possibility that you might not. But everybody, because they're so fear-based, they're only seeing one possibility, which means the worst case scenario, which means I'm going to contract this and then I won't be able to fight it, right? So once you put that down on the paper, you kind of see like if that's what you're afraid of, that you're afraid of a ghost, pretty much. You're afraid of something that hasn't actually materialized. You're fearful of a possibility, of a probability that probably won't even come true, right? So that's why it's a good exercise to start writing down your fears. Some other things that people are afraid of during this time is losing their homes, right? Not being able to pay rent, not being able to pay bills, things of that sort, not being able to have money, not being able to supply for their family, right? And why is that a scenario that is more indicative of a fear-based mentality? Well, because we already know that government officials put a lot of things in place to protect us from losing our homes, or losing our apartments, and not having any type of money, right? So that's where, when you write it down, you start putting things in perspective. What am I afraid of? Is what I'm afraid of actually real, or am I letting my imagination get away with me, right? And let's say, even though if those practices were not put into play, if there was nothing there to protect, your mortgage, and you didn't have 3 months to be able to not pay, the reality of the situation is that a foreclosure for a home takes months, sometimes years, for it to go through the process, right? So what you're afraid of, it's really based in that fear mentality, right? When you really think of it in a realistic, proportionate, subjective, putting things in perspective kind of manner, you start seeing that what you're afraid of is not going to happen, or if it can happen, it's not going to happen overnight. You still have time to be able to get, your ducks in a row, sort of say, and get things into play to protect you from these things actually happening, right? So, things like, I'm not going to have enough food, or, I lost my job. How am I going to supply for my family? Things of that sort, right? We always have unemployment. That is always an option. And we all know that unemployment, is not the most money that you can get. It's still hard when you go on unemployment, because it's very bare minimal, especially here in New York. It's like $4.30 or $4.50 or something like that. $4.50 or something like that a week. And then on top of that, if you opt to take taxes out, because they do take taxes out of unemployment, then it goes a little bit lower. But we know, because of what's happening, they actually put an additional supplement for $600 extra a week to receive for your unemployment. And for those who are not aware, that's something to be mindful of. So there's no reason to panic. There's a lot of things that have been put into play to help us at this time, because I know a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are really concerned about their financial stability, and it makes sense, right? When you are not financially set, you don't feel grounded, you don't feel stable, and it is a legitimate concern, but it's not something to be legitimately panicked about, because there are options, right? But when you're in that fear-based mentality, all you're going to see is the problem and not the solution. And that's why it's so important to be able to ground your thoughts and put them on paper. I speak a lot about journaling and in my videos last year, and this is almost a form of journaling, right? You're writing down, you're getting out what is inside your head onto paper, so you can see it on paper, and then you're saying, wait a minute, is this a real threat? Majority of the time, it's not a real threat. It's just our imagination running away from us and creating scenarios that are not there. Scenarios that could possibly be. Yes, they could possibly be. There's a probability, but the probability might be smaller than what you're amplifying in your mind, right? Or the probability, there's a probability that it might, go to the right or go to the left. And we automatically are assuming that it's going to go to the left, when there's a huge chance that it could go to the right, right? So there's no need to be fearful. Take your time, gather your thoughts, put it onto paper, write down what you're afraid of, and then challenge it, right? There are certain people that are afraid that if they were to contract COVID-19, that, their kids will be left without such and such and such and such, right? And you know what? This is a great time to start looking at those things, right? If you're fearful of certain things not being into order when years from now go on from this life, then this is a good time to start looking at that, right? I spoke about in a couple of my last videos about this is the time to put things into order. And so I also talked about, a lot of things are going to surface that we are fearful of, or we haven't handled, or we haven't taken care of. And there's a point to that. The point is to bring light to it. There's going to be a big, huge illumination on things that we need to handle, or things that we have never thought about. We're going to start thinking about it now, right? So this is a good time that if you don't have a will and testament, that you put one into play. Now, I don't want to scare anybody. That doesn't mean that you're putting it into play because you are fearful right at this moment. Everybody is safe. Everybody is fine. You got to repeat that in your mind, right? But it is also something good to think about for the future, right? Getting your stuff into alignment. That's what this time is all about. The best way to conquer a fear is to actually look it straight in the eye and go right through it. That's when you realize sometimes what you're fearful of is actually not so scary. A great exercise to overcome that fear is to actually put the systems into play, to challenge it and to say, okay, why am I so afraid of this? Why I never thought about this before, right? And then just do what you need to do. Put your systems into play so it can give you that sense of control and that sense of comfort that this is handled. And you can apply this method to any type of fear-based mentality you're having, right? A lot of the times we feel fearful because we can't control what is happening to us, right? We it's out of our control. Like COVID-19 is out of our control. And so what you want to do is not live in what you can't control, but live in what you can control. So anything you can control it, put it in order. And what you can't, let it go and release it. Tip number 3 is start to become aware of your thoughts, right? So you cannot address your thoughts if you're not aware of them, right? Start to become an observer of your thoughts, right? We cannot ground our thoughts and put them into perspective if we are not aware of our thoughts, that we are not aware of our triggers, right? So that's what you need to do. You need to start becoming aware of your thoughts. Be present and start challenging them. Like I said before, if we're not grounded in our thoughts, they will start to go away with us. We start to visualize the worst. We start to think about the worst case scenario. We start overthinking. When we start overthinking and becoming in that, more grounded in that fear-based energy, anxiety starts to pop up, stress starts to pop up, and we start creating probabilities that might never ever happen, or it's just unrealistic that it can happen, right? You need to remind yourself right now of what is realistic, what is in the present moment, not what's in the future or what could possibly happen, and not what's in the past and what has already happened. You gotta live in the present moment. That's what grounding your thoughts is all about, or grounding procedures are all about. When you start grounding yourself, you start living in the present moment, not in the future, not in the past. Right? So in the present moment, what's the reality? The reality is that this too shall pass. It has to pass, right? There's never been a time that we did not get over a prior virus in our history, right? We had Ebola, we had H1N1 or H1, whatever it's called. I don't know what the virus was called. I think I said that right. But whatever, we have had prior viruses in our past history that we have overcome, right? Yes, this one's a little stronger, this one's a little faster. In my opinion, we don't have the best leadership that's guiding us on what to do. There's a lot of confusion coming out of all of our government officials. And, it's like we're kind of going with the flow as this virus comes up, which creates more anxiety, right? It creates more anxiety in us. But the reality is, no matter what's happening over there and what they're doing over there, the bottom line is that this too shall pass, right? That is the reality of the situation. Some other realities you need to keep in mind and start repeating to yourself is that this is not going to last forever, right? That's the reality of the situation. Everybody's complaining that they locked up in their houses. Guess what? We're not going to be locked up in here forever. And we're technically not locked up, right? We're just spending time at home. Change your thoughts, change how you see things, change the way you are speaking to yourself. And once you start changing the way you start speaking to yourself, you start changing the way you see it, the way your perspective of it, right? The reality of the situation is that you do have enough. The reality of the situation is there are options to help you get through this. The reality of the situation is that you are not alone. Even if you are living alone or you feel alone, you are never, ever, ever alone. We always, always, always have someone from our past that is protecting us and they're guiding us. Even though you can't see it, they are there. We are never ever truly alone. Okay, so that is the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is you are safe. In the present time, you are safe. Okay, these are concrete realities of your situation, right? So don't get caught up in the future or too much in the past. Think about the present moment and try your best to ground your thoughts and start living and thinking in realistic terms. So remember, when you change your mind, you change your habits. When you start changing your habits, it starts changing your energy. And when you start changing your energy, you start changing the trajectory of what you perceive. Always, always, always remember that. So my next and final tip to get yourself out of fear-based mentality is to start changing your energy, right? Turn off the TV, put on some music. Stop talking about COVID-19. Talk about your goals and what you want to accomplish when you get out of COVID-19, right? Start making moves, whatever that is, to change your energy. Whatever makes you feel safe, whatever makes you feel happy, whatever makes you feel grounded, right? Whatever brings you joy, whatever brings you contentment, whatever takes your mind off of what's going on, that's where you want to direct your energy. That's where you want to put your energy, and that's what you want to create and foster and develop. That's where your focus should be, right? So whatever that is for you is going to be different for every single person, right? Speak to the people that uplift you and make you feel happy and make you feel positive and make you feel hope, right? You know, speak to those people. Do not engage in conversations that's consistently about COVID-19, deaths, what's happening, in our government, our mixed messages that we are receiving and things like that, right? Don't focus on that if you're one of those people that get, sucked in to that vortex of fear. You want to stay away from that, right? Or you want to at least limit those type of conversations, right? Whatever makes you feel grounded, whether it's like a nice warm bath, whether it's, taking a walk outside, right? Moving your body is an excellent way of changing your energy, right? Yes, I've said this before over and over and over. Move your body. Think about it in a subjective way, right? When you feel sad and depressed, what happens to your energy level? What happens to your body? You want to stay in bed all day. You don't want to move. You don't want to socialize. You don't want to go outside. You don't want to spend time with people that you normally would love to spend time with, right? You actually push that all to the side and you stay all bungled up in that energy, right? And it just takes you down and down and down and down some more. So what do you want to do to avoid that? You want to move your body any way you can. And like I said, music is a great way to do that. Put on the freaking music. Get your body moving, right? Put on something that brings you happiness and joy or reminds you of happier times. Get involved in movies, right? It's a great time to Netflix and chill, right? Get some great movies on. Start watching the movies, especially funny movies. Like, who doesn't love funny movies? I love funny movies, right? Go in and indulge in like old TV shows that you used to love. Like, I love to watch Friends, right? And it's been off the air for a really long time, but every time I watch it, it cracks me up. I love to watch The Office. They crack me up as well, right? So those are some of the shows that, I like to watch. I used to love Sex and the City when it was on. So I love to indulge in those type of shows. Right? So those are things that you can do, when you're feeling anxious and you feel like you're being overwhelmed by, burdens and things that are heavy right now. Take a walk, get out into nature, right? We're not supposed to be, socializing with others, but that doesn't mean we can't spend time with ourselves. Have a balcony or a patio or a fire escape and things of that sort. Sit there for a little bit. The impact of the air coming into your lungs, the impact of just being outdoors makes you feel so free, makes you feel so alive. There's something about just engaging with nature and engaging with air and engaging with the sky that is very, very, very healing for a lot of people. It's very healing for me. I have outdoor space and I just sit there and just stargaze. That makes me feel so at ease. So if you never try it, try that. That might help, Even if you don't have, any of those things, you can open the window and just sit out there, lean out there and just stargaze. Just get your mind right. All right, guys. So definitely make sure you're doing things to get that fear-based energy out of you. That's what you want to do. You want to release, 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 and release some more. And after you release, make sure you don't go back there. Make sure that you're taking steps to ground your mental health, right? Because fear-based and anxiety, that those are aspects of your mental health that's, actually diminishing, and you don't want to start going down that rabbit hole. That's not a fun rabbit hole to go down. Okay, guys, so those are my tips for how to stay grounded, get out of that fear-based energy that you're feeling. Try to, monetize that anxiety of yours. If you have any comments or you're struggling with anything, you could definitely write it in the comments. I'll try my best to give as much sound advice as I can at this time. And if you don't know, I am offering 2 free 1-hour coaching classes for anyone who's struggling at this time. So anyone who needs a little bit more, one-on-one, reach out to me and we can set something up, and I'll try my best to help you get back in alignment. Okay, guys, and that is totally for free. It's something I'm doing to just do my part with where I can and help who I can and where I can during this crisis. Okay, and I will see you in my next one. Love and light. Bye.